All right, let's dive right into this explainer and learn exactly how to use Power Automate process mining reports as a real-deal investigative toolkit. Because honestly, that's exactly what this is. We aren't just staring at pretty charts and graphs today. We are actively using these reports to uncover those hidden, stubborn business inefficiencies. I want you to think of yourself as a detective, and this data, well, it's the crime scene of your organization's lost time and resources.
So, as process detectives today, we're going to follow a highly structured roadmap, decoding process mining data, gathering summary tab insights, mapping the process flow, analyzing variant DNA, and finally achieving process excellence.
All right, let's kick things off. Section 1, Decoding Process Mining Data. Moving right along to Section 2, the Summary tab Insights.
Okay, to really make sense of the data in our initial summary briefing room, we kind of have to speak the language of process mining first. Let's start with a variant. A variant is literally just a unique path or a specific sequence for completing a process from start to finish. One path might differ from another by a single step or maybe by 10 steps, but every unique path is a variant.
Next up, we have a case. And a case simply represents a single, complete instance of a process. Imagine one employee completing a task from the very beginning to the very end. That right there is one case. If another employee does the exact same task, but maybe, skips a step or takes a slightly different route, that is a completely different case. And finally, we have an activity. This is a specific event or a task that takes place within that overarching process. Think of concrete everyday actions like invoice entry, check customer payment, or refund customer. Every single time a case moves forward, it's stepping through these individual activities.
And this right here brilliantly illustrates our baseline data landscape directly from our source material. Looking at these summary visualizations, we can clearly see exactly 10 unique variants, meaning 10 completely different ways this process was completed. We see 13 distinct activities taking place, and we've got a total volume of 133 cases to investigate. That means this specific process was run 133 times. So we've got our suspects, and our crime scene is neatly defined.
Which brings us to Section 3, Mapping the Process Flow.
Now that we're essentially out in the field, to read this map like a true detective, you've got to understand its anatomy. It's highly visual. First, the nodes represent your actual activities. The directed arrow lines show you the physical flow from one activity to the next. The numbers sitting right at the nodes or on the arrows reveal the exact volume of cases taking that specific route. And finally, the halos. Those rings surrounding the numbers, they indicate the relative case count. Basically, a wider halo means a massive chunk of your total cases hit that specific activity.
Now, up until now, we've really just been looking at case volume, but the absolutely crucial point here is knowing when to pivot our investigation. Just knowing how many cases went down a path doesn't actually tell us if that path is efficient, which leads me to a quick test of our knowledge. What happens when we switch our process map from measuring volume to measuring mean duration, or time?
Boom. Notice this glaring bottleneck exposed the second we switch to time? Suddenly, we see an agonizing average wait of 9.21 hours sitting right on the arrow between the credit memo entry step and the refund customer step. I mean, this isn't just a slight delay. This is practically an entire business day where the process just completely stalls out. Looking at volume alone would never, ever have shown us this hidden trap.
And when we're looking at time performance, those halos we talked about earlier, they actually change color. A wider, red halo instantly exposes the absolute biggest time drains on the map. For example, looking closely at the data here, the check customer payment node alone takes an average of 2.75 hours to complete, and it is surrounded by a massive red halo. You instantly know exactly where your team is bleeding hours.
All right, let's pivot to Section 4, Analyzing Variant DNA.
This is where we literally line up our suspects to spot deviations. And the Variant DNA tab is incredible for this. This comparison cleanly illustrates how we spot a deviation using that visual DNA chart. Look right at Step 5 in the process. Variant 2 and Variant 3 are totally identical up to this point. But at Step 5, Variant 2 goes ahead and approves the invoice, while Variant 3 diverges entirely by rejecting it. By laying these sequences side by side, literally block by block, we can pinpoint the exact moment a process goes off the rails.
Which brings us to probably the most vital piece of evidence in our entire investigation. If Variant 1 is the business's ideal, desired path, the way the process should run, this chart reveals a pretty shocking truth. Only 51.13% of cases follow that ideal path. That means nearly half, 48.87% of all cases to be exact, deviate. They take detours, they loop around, they just waste time. This is the ultimate smoking gun indicating severe inefficiencies that absolutely must be addressed.
Finally, Section 5, Achieving Process Excellence.
Case closed, right? We've successfully utilized our entire toolkit today. We started with the Summary tab to grab our high-level KPIs and see the big picture. We used the Map tab to visualize the flow and uncover some massive time bottlenecks. And we used the Variant DNA tab to track exactly where our processes were completely deviating from the ideal path. We've taken raw data and translated it into real, actionable intelligence.
Because at the end of the day, analyzing these process mining reports isn't just about reading a fancy software dashboard. It's not just some technical exercise. As our source material clearly points out, these skills are the direct investigative path to hyper-automation. Think about it. You cannot automate a broken process, and you definitely cannot fix a process if you don't know exactly how it's broken in the first place.
So armed with your brand new analytical toolkit, I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder for your own organization. If nearly half of your business processes are quietly deviating from the ideal path right now, what hidden bottleneck will you uncover first? Get out there, open up that data, and start investigating.